Hello, welcome to the program. This is the Aaron Michaels Show. We are here ready to go on a Monday. Our email address, if you want to get a hold of the program, is aaronmichaelshow@gmail.com. And on Twitter, of course, you should be following along on Twitter, @WisconsinAaron. We have a number of things that we need to get into today. Brewers lost 2 out of 3 from the Nationals over the weekend. Gotta apologize, folks. I'm dealing with a head cold or something of that effect right now. So we'll be working our way through the program, trying to stay off of the injured list here today. I must apologize because my prediction on how the biased Wisconsin sports media, how they would spin the Josh Hader outing on Saturday, it was only partially correct in what I said. So Hader comes in with a 1-run lead, blows the save, and then proceeds to load the bases with no one out, and then he strikes out the side. And he's a hero for getting that game to the next frame tied. And if it were not for Hader, we could not have gone into extra innings. If it was not for Hader getting the 3 outs with the bases loaded, the Brewers wouldn't have had a chance to get the win in extra innings. Yeah, well, what about the fact that he had a 1-run lead when he came in, but he did a good job to get it to the next frame tied? The hell he did. After he blew the damn save, he got it to the next frame tied. But that is the bias media spin, folks. If you're ever wondering what I'm talking about when I say media bias, this is a prime example of it. Josh Hader has a job to do. That is close down ball games for the Milwaukee Brewers. He comes in with the lead. He blows said lead. What should the story be? The story should be Josh Hader blew another save. But somehow we have escaped that, and he is a hero for getting the game to extra innings tied. And furthermore, this is where I was not accurate in my prediction. I predicted that he would be regarded as the savior of the game, that he did a great job, and that he should get all the credit in the world for getting that game tied to the next frame. What I did not anticipate, though, and this is another spin, this is it. Josh Hader is back. He is returned to form. Okay, now there are a few problems with this. First of all, you're telling me that someone who blew the save and then loaded the bases with no one out, the guy who did that is back? Yeah, but you say, yeah, but Aaron, he got out of the bases loaded, nobody out jam. Yes, and what? Did he inherit that bad situation? No. He got into that himself with his own pitching. Okay, so he got 3 straight strikeouts. That doesn't mean he's back. It means he can still get outs. It means he's still a major league caliber pitcher. We've seen him blow saves and then go on to keep the game tied before. He's still Josh Hader. He's still got a big league arm. He's still fully capable of blowing fastballs by batters, especially when the opponent, by the way, is swinging at every pitch. And just for the record, just about every pitch that they swung at to get those strikeouts was a ball. So with Hader, I guess we'll see for sure what this is all about the next time he takes the mound. Does Counsell really think that he's snapped out of it? I guess we'll find out if he brings him in for a save situation. And I guess we'll see how Hader does in it. We'll have to see. But it's complete bias and a complete spin to call him the hero for keeping the game tied, number one. Or to proclaim that he is officially back after what happened on Saturday. Again, he blew the save. It was his job to shut that game down so that there would be no extra innings. Yet he did not. And on this very topic, Tom Hargicourt, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, was writing an article. And I just wanted to take you to a little bit down on here. In this article, this is Hader talking. Eventually, the fastball kicked up to where I'm used to, said Hader, who returned to a hero's welcome in the visiting dugout. You have to have that conviction in your pitches. We got here for a reason, Hader says. Hader returned to a hero's welcome in the visiting, that means the Brewers, dugout. Well, I would think, for God's sakes here, folks, what in the hell are we talking about? He returned to a hero's welcome in the Brewers dugout? Shouldn't he, if he was going to be returning, I mean, if anyone was giving him a hero's welcome, shouldn't it have been the Nationals, who were losing when the inning began? But hey, Hader gave him a chance to go to extra innings. Shouldn't he be the Nationals hero, not the Brewers? Folks, that is so backwards. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But that is a very backwards way of looking at things. That Hader and the fact that the Brewers dugout gave him a hero's welcome. If he was getting heralded as a hero to someone, it should be the Nationals for letting them come back. I'm sure okay, well, if you're the Nationals, you want to score a run there. You got the bases loaded, nobody out. I'm sure they were frustrated that they didn't. Yet I got to think that the Nationals got to be pretty happy about that inning, right? You come in, you're down by a run, last inning of the game, and even though you blew the opportunity with the bases loaded and nobody out, you accomplished something by getting it to overtime, to extra innings. We will wait and see. Okay, I have uncovered something rather disturbing over the weekend. Now, this is a sequence of headlines from around the NFL. We all remember Taysom Hill, quarterback, the guy Packer fans liked a few years ago, that Ted cut, and the Saints now have him. Been there for a few years. Backup quarterback, plays special teams, does all sorts of stuff. We also remember Brett Hundley. Well, everyone, of course, remembers Hundley. Ted's guy, the man that Mike McCarthy groomed to be an NFL star. Let me read to you some headlines from around football over the weekend that I found. First one from ESPN. NFL preseason week 2 takeaways. Is Taysom Hill becoming Drew Brees' heir apparent? Another one from NOLA.com. Taysom Hill does it all. Saints utility man puts on a show in preseason, win versus Chargers. Let's move on to Brett Hundley, shall we? Backup signal caller is getting Arizona Cardinals' attention. Watch, from Cardinals Wire, Brett Hundley connects with Trent Sherfield for another touchdown. ABC 15 Arizona, Chandler High School alumni, Brett Hundley shines in Cardinals' debut. Let us move on. More headlines. Pro Football Network. Green Bay Packers. It's time to give up on DeShone Kizer. Ouch. CBS Sports. Packers DeShone Kizer. Average in second exhibition game. And how about Roto Baller? DeShone Kizer leading Packers without Rodgers, which was news from yesterday's practice, and that without Rodgers went horribly, horribly bad, with Kizer leading the team. Rodgers still out with a dinged up back, apparently. I guess that means that my conspiracy theory was wrong, that it was not planned all along for Kizer to get that start unexpectedly in Baltimore. But hopefully this is no big deal with Rodgers, because like I said, it sounded like the offense was horrendous yesterday as Rodgers sat out. And the Packers have also not committed to playing Rodgers in the preseason yet. If you remember back, Rodgers originally said that he thought that he'd get some work in the second and third preseason games, and then he sits out last Thursday, and either because of his back or the fact that they're playing on field turf in Canada might be another reason to hold him out this week. And I know that Rodgers is the wise old veteran who doesn't need much preseason work. But of all years, I would think it would be important for Rodgers to get out on the field this preseason. You got a first-year head coach who's also your play caller, got a brand new offense that if you don't play in the preseason, the first time Rodgers takes the reins in an actual game setting with a first-year coach calling the plays, it's going to be Thursday Night Football, the NFL opening game of the year, at Soldier Field in a hostile environment and against one of the best defenses in the NFL. That isn't too comforting to me. Just a side note, something that I heard from Aaron Rodgers that makes me excited for the season, despite him not being in, despite him not having played a preseason snap yet. And this is something that makes me excited. It should make you happy too, especially if you were not a fan of the Mike McCarthy offense. Rodgers last week talked about the difference of this offense with LaFleur, how guys are schemed open by the offense, as opposed to previous years where it was just it was all about one-on-one matchups. Scheme didn't matter. You, as an offensive player, had to beat the defensive player, and then if you were open, hey, maybe Rodgers would throw you the ball, or maybe he would just hold on to it, because he did that enough of the time. It sounds like a horrible plan, and a harder plan than it needs to be, no matter the time, or the team, or the situation. Doesn't it sound a lot easier and a lot more efficient to scheme guys open all the time, no matter who you have on your offense? Like the LaFleur offense does, scheme guys open. I mean, I guess the McCarthy way can work if you have amazing talent. If you've got Donald Driver, James Jones, Jordy Nelson, Jermichael Finley, Greg Jennings all on the same team. But really, who has that much talent? And if those guys were able to just go out and get open on their own like they did, could you imagine how much better their offenses would have been when they had all those guys? If they would have had a system that actually schemed guys open instead of just relying solely on the one-on-one talent? We take a break. It's the Aaron Michael Show. Okay, so in the first segment, I never mentioned the Brewers game from yesterday or the series as a whole. We talked about Hader, about the Wisconsin sports media being biased, spinning the story to call Hader a hero, to say that he is officially back. Nothing to worry about. Not when it comes to Hader. Nothing to see here. The media does such a nice job of public relations for the Brewers and the Packers. Must be so nice if you're those organizations. I don't even know why they bother having PR departments. You just throw out most of your writers or TV guys to do your work for you. Here's the game from yesterday from Brewers.com. Hey, remember the Brewers got killed 16-8. Chase Anderson at one point, had recorded 6 outs and given up 9 runs. Here it is from Brewers.com and Zachary Silver. Headline, Anderson struggles. Crew tie dubious club mark. The Brewers didn't get the Chase Anderson they've come to expect at the moment. They needed it, or they needed him most. It wasn't Anderson. It wasn't the Anderson that has lit up the scene since the All-Star break. It wasn't the Anderson anyone has ever seen in his career. A day after the Brewers used their entire bullpen in a 14-inning roller coaster, Anderson exited Sunday's 16-8 loss to the Nationals after being tagged for a career-high 10 runs in 2 1/3 innings. Hey, you know what? Over the weekend, folks, I did a quick 3-minute weekend show, and this was one of the things I actually mentioned. At this point of the season, we know what this Brewer team is. We know what to expect. Less than 40 games left now. And you can go back, you can listen to this show from Saturday, Aaron Michael's show. Just go to my at Wisconsin Aaron on Twitter. At this point of the season, we know what this Brewer team is. We know what to expect. Less than 40 games left. We know what we have. We've got an offense that's never going to consistently hit with runners in scoring position. We've got a bullpen that's always going to make it interesting. And we got a starting pitching staff that no one trusts. And this is why. And there's a good reason that nobody trusts them. You can get some good starts, like Anderson had since the All-Star break, like Jordan Lyles has a few times, like Gio Gonzalez had a few turns ago, and even when he's out there, such as tonight, Zach Davies, he's had some good starts, especially in the first half. But all these guys, including Davies, are completely unreliable. And by the way, Chacin coming back, if and when he does, doesn't fix the unreliable problem. Ulysse Chacin returning with his 3-10 record and ERA just under 6 isn't going to do a damn thing for this Brewer team. But for every good outing that the Brewers starting pitching has, you have someone come in and pull a Chase Anderson like yesterday. None of these guys that I mentioned are anyone that you want near the top of your rotation for the playoffs, if you ever get that far. Oh yes, so the Brewers starting a series against the Cardinals tonight. This should be interesting. Brewers are 2 games behind the Cardinals in the division, 2 games behind the Cubs for the second wild card spot. And the argument goes on and on. Are the Brewers a good team? I still tell you no. They're an average team with the ability to be good. They should be a good team because they've definitely got the talent for it, but it is not coming together. If the Brewers get a sweep on the road against the Cardinals and come out of this series with a 1-game division lead over St. Louis, then I'll start listening to you if you say that this is a good team. They need to sweep, and I'll begin to listen. Zach Davies tonight, as I mentioned before, pitching for the Brewers, 6:45 start time from St. Louis. Oh yeah, and with all the big news of Hader officially being back, did you happen to see it covered much that Freddie Peralta was sent down to AAA? You know, remember when the same biased Wisconsin sports media was praising him as the next best thing in late inning games? You remember that one time right after the All-Star break? Counsell brought him in to close out a game. It was his first career save for Peralta, and everyone in the media was ecstatic. We finally found another late inning guy besides Hader who can come in and close games out. Finally, the Brewers have found a niche for Peralta. Well, folks, here he is in the minors. But that media and a lot of people out there, just like they are with this whole Hader is back thing, they were so sure, they were so confident that Peralta had found his home late in games, and yet, here we are. Peralta's got an ERA of over 22 in his last 6 appearances. Gave up 4 runs without getting an out on Saturday. This is what Counsell had to say about Peralta. He said he had 2 great weeks where I thought his confidence has soared, and then we have had 4 or 5 appearances where he's lost some confidence. Well, then if he had 2 weeks worth of good play and he fell back down to earth, why do you think that after a blown save it means Hader's going to be back after 1 appearance, in which he blew a save, by the way? I mean, I've seen Hader get 3 outs during this bad stint that he's been on. It's all going to be wait and see with the Hader thing, but guys, it is just much to do about nothing, and just trying to spin it as nothing to see here when it comes to Hader by proclaiming him being back at this point. After a blown save. Yes, he did strike out the side with the bases loaded. Who was it that loaded the bases? Hader's got the ability to strike guys out, just like John Axford did. But then you get the bad too often, and suddenly you are not worth it anymore. And I am not saying to you right now that I think Hader's career is going to go to the way of John Axford, but this can happen. I mean, Axford can still get outs. He still had the arm. This is still Josh Hader. He can still throw 98 with a high fastball. Nothing's happened to his arm. But is he going to be consistent? And that has been his problem. Consistency. And just because he blew a save and then loaded the bases with nobody out and then proceeded to strike his way out of it, well, I'm not surprised that he struck out the side to get out of that. But it doesn't mean that he's back. That is media bias spin. Let's see here. Other Packer news and notes from yesterday. Jimmy Graham injured a finger during practice yesterday. Left practice, did not return. We'll wait for an update on that today. Trevor Davis, Jamal Williams were back yesterday, and if my recollection is correct, I believe that is the first time this camp that Aaron Jones and Williams have been on the field together. I had to laugh at this tweet from Rob Demoski, previously of the Green Bay Press-Gazette, ESPN Packer reporter, and I'm paraphrasing here. He says, apparently the Packer offense plans to stall out a lot in the red zone because of the short field goals that the kickers were taking against each other in the kicking competition. So they each took kicks from 22 yards, 28, 33, and 40 yards. And lo and behold, both Ficken and Crosby made them all. But real quickly, folks, back to the first segment. When it comes to the Packers, they have really bungled this backup quarterback situation. As we sit here now, just over 2 weeks away from the opening game, Thursday Night Football against the Bears, the Packers sit here yet without a competent backup quarterback. And it's a punch to the gut to see the headlines that I gave you before. It's Taysom Hill becoming the heir apparent to Drew Brees. Taysom Hill does it all. Another headline. And then Brett Hundley. Brett Hundley shines in Cardinals debut. Backup signal caller Brett Hundley getting Arizona Cardinals attention. And then you flip over to the Packers side and you see things like it's time to give up on DeShone Kizer. DeShone Kizer is average in second exhibition game. The Brewers or the Packers have really just messed up this entire thing with the whole backup quarterback situation, and they haven't had one. I mean, really, folks, they have not had a backup quarterback who was worth anything since the first time around when the Packers had the highly regarded and highly esteemed Matt Flynn. But outside of that, there's been nothing. Mike McCarthy was not able to develop anyone into a backup. Ted Thompson was not able to get a backup. Though, McCarthy had a shot with just about every type you could think of. McCarthy had guys that were drafted for him. He had veterans brought in like Vince Young, Seneca Wallace. And he just couldn't do anything with them. High draft picks, too, like Brian Brom. Matt Flynn was a little bit further down on there. He's the only one who panned out to anything, and then he went, and he fell flat on his face in Seattle, and then he went to the Raiders after that for like one season before nobody wanted him, and then the Packers, who didn't have a backup naturally, and Rodgers went down, went and got Flynn, brought him out of whatever he was doing, nothingness, and they put him back in at quarterback. But since the first time around for Matt Flynn, the Packers have not had a backup quarterback. And it is frustrating because it's been a need every year, and then they just kind of stayed pat. I mean, there were some veterans out there, and I am one who will tell you no how, no way, no never would I want Colin Kaepernick. I don't care. Again, I tell you, I don't care what his politics are, but no serious contending team for a Super Bowl, or for that matter, any team who wants to be serious or contending for a Super Bowl, no team is going to bring in that circus. But there are, or were, other veteran backups out there, and it was something the Packers chose not to do. They decided to stay pat with DeShone Kizer and Tim Boyle and Manny Wilkins. And I'll tell you what, the way it's looking right now, and the way practice looked yesterday without Aaron Rodgers, the Packers are going to be in a world of hurt, as they generally are, if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt this season. Maybe a little bit less so, because I think the defense is going to take such a jump forward. But look, if the Packers don't have a competent backup, their defense isn't going to be able to do it all. The offense still is going to have to move the ball some. They're going to have to score some points. And really with the inability of some of the running backs to stay healthy, particularly Aaron Jones, the quarterback is still going to have to be relied on. I know LaFleur is going to run the ball more, wants to run the ball more, but if you don't have healthy, talented running backs, then you're going to have to rely on the passing game more than you would want to, especially if Rodgers were out. But 2 preseason games left to take a look at them, and I don't know. Maybe the Packers still will bring somebody in. Again, you're starting to run out of time. You're starting to run out of bodies out there. And please don't give me Kaepernick because of the media circus that would follow. All right, that's going to do it for today's program. Again, if you want to send us an email, you can, AaronMichaelShow@gmail.com. Also, @WisconsinAaron on Twitter. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Aaron Michael Show.